happy Sunday. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend and getting ready for your Super Bowl Sundays. We have an eclectic discussion to have. First, we're going to be talking about the what's going on with the affordable housing in the United States. It's not what was predicted. Secondly, we're going to talk about something that kind of just hit me today, talking when I was reading the newspaper about what's going on in Ohio. So I want to talk about how that could affect the housing market. And then we are going to talk about what's going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth housing market with one of my favorite guests for Super Bowl Sunday, Mr. Matt Kelderman. Come on in, my friend. Come on in. Man,
Hello.
You look a little older, dude.
I know.
You're looking a little old. I know why. Today is your birthday.
It is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Eddie with a nice little sounder in the background. I love
it. Eddie, put that on. Happy birthday to you, my friend.
Thank you.
So I know I didn't send you this article earlier, but it was one of those things I wanted to kind of discuss with you to see what you get your take on it. And I want to get everybody in the audience's take as well. So in Ohio, they had a massive disaster that happened with a train that had derailed. In that train was carrying chemicals of vinyl chloride, which exploded in the air, like it had gone into the air. And so they decided, well, the best thing to do before it goes into the groundwater was to set it on fire and let it kind of dissipate that way. People were told to leave the area. They leave the area. They come back. Their chickens are dead. Their dogs are sick. And they're starting to show videos of, basically fish dead in the river along the way. But they're telling the EPA, a government agency, is telling them that the water is safe and not to worry about it. This is what I was thinking is that, like, first thing that most people say is, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It will be fine. Well, if it's not fine, just move. How are people like this supposed to move? They can't leave, even if their house was just, say, in pristine condition. Who's going to buy that living in an area? It's even entered the international spotlight last Friday when the eastbound Norfolk Southern train derailed and caught on fire. I was told that it was set on fire so it wouldn't go into the groundwater. This to me seems very similar and reminiscent of what happened in Michigan. What do you think people should do if they own a home?
This came up today. I was having this conversation with my missus, actually, just about rental prices in general, and we were talking about how when home prices go up, rental prices in areas go up, and to the affordable housing conversation, people can't just up and move. They're like, people say this all the time. We're like, if you don't like it here, just move somewhere else. Their kids go to school here. Maybe they're like me and they have geographical restrictions due to custody stuff and that you couldn't move. But you don't have an asset to sell. You don't have a job to go to. Your whole family's here. Why should people be forced to move out of a place, especially for something like a train derailment and terrible chemicals being spilled everywhere, right? But more importantly, like, we're seeing this all over the country with this sentiment of people. It's like, well, just move somewhere you can afford. Most people, including even people who may have means, aren't just going to up and move and uproot their entire life tomorrow because they have to. It's just a crazy sentiment. I hadn't seen that story at all until you just brought it up. I was kind of trying to find an article about it. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. So it just reminds me, somebody else said the Love Canal, but I mean, if you look in Flint, it was Flint, Michigan that had that problem. And to this day, they are still brushing their teeth. They have to go down and get an allotment of bottled water to brush their teeth and bathe. And when people say, well, why don't you move? They're like, how are we going to move? I have this house here. Who's going to buy it? Like, and look what's coming out from the tap. Who's going to buy this house? I can't. Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
I can't just leave a mortgage payment, and the bank doesn't care that the water isn't, like, I have to pay this. And I think that there should be some kind of restitution that's brought up for these people that live in these areas, that they They find a way for them to be able to leave, because to raise children in an area that is contaminated, that will make them sick for the rest of their lives, is not, it's just not humane, in my opinion.
Don't these companies always end up finding some kind of loophole, especially in the insurance, where it's like, we had to pay out a certain amount, but we only pay out a certain amount per person. And you know what I mean? That's the thing about this, is it doesn't even make the people whole that it's supposed to make whole in the first place.
Well, they drag it through the courts for the longest time, and they try to justify what they did. You know, that's what they did in Flint. That's why it's going on for so long. You know, they just keep dragging it out, you know, and that's what will happen with this. They'll drag it out, and those people will have to suffer all this time. But I just don't think this is the way we should handle it. You know, like, there has to be a better way than this, because these are human beings, and nobody deserves to have like contaminated water to their homes. You know, when they bought it, they didn't know it was contaminated, you know, like, they made it this way. I don't know. It's my bleeding heart. I just think about those people, and those people with, you know, they have farms, you know, they have those big farms, and the cattle's not cheap. Raising cattle's not cheap, you know, and having all that there. I mean, those animals are getting sick now. What happens to those people? Those farmers are going to suffer from this. You know, can they even grow vegetables anymore there? Like, there's so many unanswered questions, and it's, I don't know. It's just gross. And corporate greed is alive and well, and they're going to find some way to get around it and drag it out for eons. And I just really, really sympathize. I think the effects of this is going to be a lot worse than people think, because where this was located, it's right by a branch of waterways. So it isn't just concentrated in that one area. This is going to branch out to several states. So maybe because it's going to affect so many people down the line, that maybe something will be done about it. But who knows?
Yeah, that was not on my radar, but it is now. I mean, after we get off, I'm definitely gonna check it out some more.
Oh, Living on Montana says hello, Kristina. That's a good channel right there. I don't know if you know Will. Do you know Will Friedman? Anyway, he's a good guy. Anyway, Frieder. I always say his last name wrong. Yeah, it's like 3 Mile Island. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we got balloons in the air, but that doesn't relate to real estate. But that was just like, I don't watch the morning news. If anybody wants if you have not, take a break from the news for a while, and then go ahead and turn on the morning news, just to make yourself laugh hysterically, because nothing is worse than the morning news. They literally will report on nothing for hours. It was Tom Brady in his underwear. And I'm like, we have contaminated water, and you're talking about Tom Brady's underwear.
It just also goes to show how we can all put ourselves in our own little bubble when it comes to this kind of stuff too. Because like I didn't know the balloon thing was happening until the day before everything kind of popped off, and it was because the algorithm on most of my social media is just keyed up to football and soccer and whatever my kid watches on YouTube. And so I don't even see any of that stuff.
I generally look for articles online for real estate. You know, I want to see what people are saying, what the experts are saying. I'm constantly reading that stuff. So it doesn't normally pop into my feed. It just so happened that it was a story under the story I was reading about affordable housing, which is, you know, my wheelhouse. And the article was talking about affordable housing. And right under it was this oil or this chemical spill, and how many people were affected. And then they, like, the part that blew my mind was like, they set it on fire. You know, they were like, oh, we just don't want it to go in the groundwater, so we're going to throw it up in the air, this big dark plume of smoke. It's totally fine, but we're going to have, just out of abundance of caution, we're going to evacuate 1,000 people, but you can come back in a couple days. They have them come back and their chickens are all dead, you know.
Like, that's the article I saw. It said dogs and chickens and just local wildlife. It's just all.
Yeah. And so then I don't get on TikTok very much, but I got on TikTok and they were showing people, you know, people have their phones. So they're out there, like, look at the rivers, and they're like foamy and soapy, and there's nothing but, you know, carcasses everywhere. It's like, oh yeah, I couldn't go back. I would take bankruptcy. I wouldn't go back. Yeah. So Diamond Rush Media said, please post a question so we can see it. But we're going to talk about affordable housing. So the thing I've been sounding the alarm about for the last couple weeks is the fact that because interest rates have been ticking down just a little bit, they kind of waver between 6 and a little under 6 for the last couple weeks. I've noticed an increase of activity with first-time home buyers. But with that activity, I've also noticed that with those most affordable homes, there's started the bidding wars again. And I've actually even noticed it on social media posts from other real estate agents that said, I just lost a bid and it was, 13 in the docket for them to look at. And we just lost it. And it was because it was in the most affordable range. And this is what I'm sounding the alarm about, is that, everybody keeps talking about a housing crash, but I don't think it's going to happen in the most affordable home sector. So what do you say, Matt Kelderman?
In so many markets, that affordable home sector is, like you just were talking about, still flooded with so many people. We like a lot of major markets are starting to see some multiple offers back in reasonable price points. Now, fortunately, I have yet to see the waiver of inspections, waiver of appraisals kind of insanity that we were seeing there for a while. But absolutely, we're definitely seeing buyers really engaging with the market. I think all of the shock around interest rates is gone now. People have accepted interest rates for what they are. We are now at high 5s, low 6s for pretty much everything. People are still seeing home ownership as a viable option, right? They're revisiting it. They're seeing in our market where inventory is way up. Our pendings in January look really similar to January pendings of last year, but we have a lot more houses to choose from, which is nice. And the ones that are really desirable are still seeing a ton of activity and multiple offers. I have not been back in a multiple offer situation yet, fortunately, which I'm super happy about.
We haven't seen so much of that here in Louisiana. You get some tough negotiations, but it's not like full on bidding wars. But we didn't have that many here during even the height of. But I live in a really rural area. I'm not gonna lie. So, I mean, it's just not as hot any time of year, even after Katrina. I worry for some of the areas that people believe that the housing market is completely falling apart. For instance, let's talk about like Phoenix, Arizona, some areas outside of Las Vegas, Austin, Texas. And people are reading the papers and they're saying home prices are dropping 30%. And that, they even in your area, Dallas, Fort Worth, they're saying that prices are dropping. So if you are a first-time home buyer and you're reading all these articles and you're seeing all these things, you may feel like you're getting bamboozled by your real estate agent and by the sellers because you're thinking they're dreaming because everything you've read has said that the housing market is falling apart. In any market, right now, if you have an affordable home, it's going to be something that's going to be wanted. You have a commodity that's very needed. So just know that if you're in this right now, even in your area, right, Matt?
Well, no, yeah. And here's the thing is the two things can work together, right? Home prices are down, maybe not 30% here, but I bet you they're down here 23, 24% from where they were May of 2022. Which if by all trending kind of numbers that we see locally, that was when the peak of the market was May 2022, right? And we've seen home prices come down significantly since then. The deal is they were still up probably 20% from where they were in July of 21. And the affordable houses have become even more desirable because there's even so few of those now. It was not hard to find good homes in parts of DFW under 250 before all of this run up. Those are very few and far between. I had a buyer recently who her max price was $180,000. We were exploring if you're from DFW, you understand how huge of an area it is. We were exploring every market where you could get single family homes under 180. She could not. Ultimately, she decided this market wasn't for her, and we found a different solution. She couldn't find anything that was just in a decent enough neighborhood that was in decent enough shape. She was fine with buying something that was in okay shape in a neighborhood that was maybe a little less desirable, or something that was in rough shape in a nice neighborhood. She couldn't even make that match. The only thing so anything under 200 has become very, very difficult to find. and anything under 400 is really, really attractive to everybody.
Jacqueline Smith says, Phoenix, 33 years in the business. Our market has picked up. It's back to normal, and we're not crashing. So tired of the clickbaity stuff. Well, I won't mention names. They are presenting false narratives. And I understand that. But, like when you read headlines, you can take anything, any kind of information, and twist it to shape into what you want to say. You can take any chart and make it seem something else. And a lot of them do that. It's wrong. It is wrong. But no matter what market you're in, even if Phoenix was still, let's just say Phoenix home prices were collapsing to the ground, it still would not make the most affordable homes available right at this moment. Exactly. And not only that, like, to find a house in the under 200,000, and Jacqueline, you can answer this. To find a home under 200,000 in Phoenix, I'm sure is very difficult to find, right? And then you still have over 6% right now as far as an interest rate. That's still a very hefty payment for a lot of American families. So, a lot of people would be like, yes, anything. If I could get a house for 200,000, that'd be amazing. But our area, it's very difficult to find that.
I think one of the natural things that we do is we look at national news for real estate information. And while that's not a bad idea when you want to see the overall health of the economy, some things like that, one, you have to weed through a lot of stuff that's not news. It's just people's opinions. Well, that's the biggest issue first, right? Is clearing all that away. Secondly, real estate's hyper local. It's just what is happening in even certain parts of Dallas isn't the same as what's happening in other parts of Dallas-Fort Worth, right? So anybody who kind of, one, as real estate agents, sometimes we have a tendency to jump in some of these groups that we're on and be like, market still, like, and debate each other about the real estate market, even though like the laws in our states aren't even the same, which is crazy.
Even the interest rates in each state are not the same.
Yes. And
people don't realize
doesn't
that.
even know that, and they're dealing with all this. And so, like, I understand it can be rough to swim through, but being hyper local with your real estate understanding is going to be much more relevant to you than kind of what you're hearing on whatever chosen news source.
Jacqueline Smith says that you can't even find a house under 200,000. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's not impossible here, but there's not many.
Yeah. So, I know that at one time during the last housing collapse, crash, whatever you want to call it, you could scoop up some pretty good sweet deals during the foreclosure. There was a lot of people that did, like I had clients that got some really, really nice houses during that time. But they were just like, when people were telling them not to buy, they were like, no, this is a really great house for a really good price, and interest rates are great, and I'm getting money down and stuff. So just look at your finances. Don't listen to your real estate agent, and don't listen to headlines, national headlines, because it may not pertain to your market whatsoever. So Maria P says, will the Fed continue to increase rates after March, given the 517K jobs? Do you think that they will continue to increase rates?
First, I love how educated your viewers are, because I'm even surprised to get that question in the first place. Look, I'm not the Fed. I will say that more jobs is not more better for the economy. I will use terrible English. There is a part
not more better.
Not more better. It seems like it should be. It seems like it should be, but there is part of this interest rate and the overall health of the economy that has to go through pain. And look, maybe we're not going to go through it, but I would say 4 or 5 months ago, my opinion was we need to have unemployment at a lot higher than it's gotten to in order for the economy to really break this fever that we were seeing. It seems that we have somehow managed to coast through Q4 and into Q1 without having to have a bunch of jobs. Interest rates appear to have settled down. Consumer products still suck to buy, right? Like everyday stuff like milk and eggs, are like the amount of money people are spending is not any better, which might be like the shadow thing in all of this. Yes, more better. But the reality is, I still do think as long as we are still adding jobs, we're not going to see interest rates going lower, right?
Well, it depends if they continue. It depends what the bond market does. We'll find out what happens.
That too.
If they continue to go up and they keep increasing, it could mean that the bond market reacts in a way that will keep them in the high 5s, low 6s which isn't, to me, is not a terrible place to be as far as an interest rate is concerned. I wish I had saved it, but I saw a TikTok of a guy. He's like, all those people that said I was stupid to buy a house at the end of 2021. Well, let me show you. Here's my interest rate. It was like 2.75. He's like, I'm dying in this house. This house will be buried with me. I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
I was reading the comment section. They were saying the same thing. Those people that have those interest rates in the twos, they're not moving unless like God has picked them up and taken them out.
Yeah. And look, they wouldn't right now, but also like, let's say you closed on your house in May of 2022 and you still got that interest rate from April of 2022, but you overpaid by 150 grand, which there were people doing that here.
Yeah.
And you're now sitting on a $600,000 house that you paid $725 for. Like, that interest rate better be super exciting to you,
but it will come back.
It will.
They will
come
back, and they use their own money. They didn't finance that money. They use their own money.
That's been the best, and that's the biggest reason why we're not seeing this market take a giant dump right now either, is because this wasn't. You and I have been saying this for months. This wasn't the type of market that was going to lend to like complete collapse. This was real people. This is real cash coming out of people's pockets that was funding these overappraised values. Right. Like, and I saw somebody comment earlier. We haven't talked about this in a while. I don't see the same corporate purchasing and insane investor purchasing that we were seeing a few months ago either.
Depends on where you're at.
Yeah. At least here, that's what I'm saying. Here, I don't see it.
You don't see it there. There are other states that are starting to see an increase of that. But that's a good point, though. I think the way that people want the housing market to crash, the only way would be if these investors were not making enough money on their REITs, so they had to dump some of their investments. So they started flooding the market in some of these hot areas that they overpaid for houses just to get them off their books, so their REITs can still perform for their, their investor buddies. Yeah. That would be the thing, because they have bought so many houses. At one time, it was 1 in 10 houses that were bought by a corporate investor. Yikes, fruit stripes. And they were overpaying for them, Absolutely. So question. I co-own a house and I need to get it overhauled, cleaning, flooring, and garbage removal, and turn it into an investment property. But how do I get my mom to hand the ownership over to me? Ooh, wow. I would get with a title attorney to see if you could work something out. Now, most likely you're going to have to buy out her share of the house, and you're going to have to see if you qualify to remortgage the house with that qualifying share that you're going to be adding to it. That's how you would do it, in my opinion. What do you say, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, like on the buttoning up side, and you wanted to, if the person agreed to it, right? That's how you would go through all of it. I think this, the human side of things. Find a local real estate agent that you trust, and maybe even someone who can GC the deal and put together numbers, and maybe just go to your mom and say, hey, look, here's how this could really look for us. For this amount of money, we could do this to the house and then sell it or lease it out for this. And here's what the long-term play looks like. I'm a fan, because the reason I'm figuring you're asking this question is there's a little bit of tension on who wants to do what with the property. That's not uncommon in real estate. You see that all the time between spouses and people in homes. They don't want to do the same thing. I would encourage you to come with information and data and show the other person what your game plan is, right? Instead of just kind of trying to like do the thing that you want to do. Say, hey, look, here's what it's going to look like. Here's what the ROI is. Here's what we could spend. Here's what the long-term investment looks like. Let's do
ROI means return on investment.
Return on investment, exactly. So you do all of those things and then go to the other co-owner and say, hey, here's what I would like to do. And then of course, if it becomes a contentious situation, you start having to work it out from there. But seek to come with information first. You might get a little bit further.
Yeah. And parents can be stubborn, though. I have some stubborn parents.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's going to work. I'm just saying at that point you would have covered your bases and have a clear understanding of what you need. Maybe you don't even need to battle with this person. Maybe they'd be a little bit more amicable than you think they are. I don't know.
Well.
If not, sue her. It's just your mom.
No, don't your mom. Golly, Matt. Sue her. Take her to court.
I'm not a professional.
Take her to Judge Judy.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter has a question. He says, even with prices down and interest rates down to just above 6%, aren't most potential buyers still not able to qualify for a loan?
No, people still have great jobs. I mean, like people still have down payments. There's still 3% down conventionals, 3.5% FHAs. I mean, there's still reasonable to get into a home with a lower down payment. If you can put together 15 grand, you can still get into a home, right? So there's still lots of people who can do that, but it's certainly different. And there are people who qualify for less than they did before, for sure.
I will say this too, Peter, the average age of the first-time home buyer has increased a lot over the last 10 years. It used to be like when I was growing up, it was like 22, 23, 24 around there. Now it's like 32.
I will say I deal with a lot less first-time home buyers than I used to. I was like you about 10, 11 years ago. I was helping people in their young couples in their early 20s buy their first condos. Like that doesn't seem to be happening nearly as much as it used to.
Right. And that's a problem. That is a big problem because they're forced into renting. And who owns the rental properties? Corporate investors.
100%.
And they're dictating the price of rent to the point where like it's unaffordable. It's so gross. It's so gross. It's like
I live in a neighborhood right now. I'm looking out my back window. We live in a neighborhood of 3 2s, 4 3 type bedroom. You know what I mean? Bedroom, bathroom count. Nothing really over 2,300 square feet. Homes over here renting for $2,700, $2,800. These are 1980s.
That's disgusting.
Bills. Yeah, it's almost $3,000 a month to rent in this neighborhood.
And most people, a good portion of the United States, that's what they make in a month. $3,000.
It's unreal to pay $3,000 to rent a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house.
Live in a dwelling, a roof over your head. That is disgusting. I'm sorry.
You see a lot more apartment complexes popping up. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be the answer to the affordability crisis. Is to put up more, or like we're not sardines. These are human beings. We have plenty of land. Build smaller homes at an affordable price, and they will sell to people that have good jobs. Anyways, Gamer G says in Orlando, they said the median price for a starter home in a decent area will start over $300,000. Yeah. $300,000 for a starter home.
Yeah.
And Orlando used to be extremely affordable. Like back in the day, just when I was over a teenager, we bought our first house. It was $130,000. We were sweating.
Yeah.
Our interest rate was like, I think it was either 7.5 or 8.5. I can't remember. I think it was 7.5. And I was like, I hope we did the right thing. And then like we had the big boom that came after that. And it, then it was like, it got up to 285,000. I'm like, this house is not worth $285,000.
Just sell it.
We did. That's how we ended up in Louisiana. That's how we did it.
Probably would have too.
Grateful to catch a live. Thank you to all your guests again and again for all you do. Thank you so much. Relaxed. Don't do it. All right, officer. Officer of the law has a question here. Kristina, if all the housing markets fall apart in the Humpty Dumpty economy cannot put itself back together, how long will it take to start all over again? Tent cities until it appears? During the last crash, they were really predicting that people were going to be out on their rear ends. The thing that the cause and effect of that was there was a lot of people that lost their homes, but the rental market was like they were begging people to come in. Like they were offering a lot, so these people were able to find rentals. Right now, most people that are in a home have a lot of equity in their houses. They're not losing their jobs. Yes, there are people that are having layoffs in the tech world, but it's not as epic as it was the last time. We are not seeing foreclosure rates go up like they had in the past. They're not even, I haven't checked recently, but the last time I checked, they still weren't even at the pre-pandemic levels they were in 2019. So at this point, I just don't see how it's all going to come tumbling down. The only thing I have in my brain is because corporate investors have been wielding their little fingers into the real estate market, dictating the prices so much so that they have increased, like in some areas, they increased it. They were overbidding and making home values go up so fast. In those areas where they have done that, I think that we could see a problem. But I don't know when that's going to happen. And it would take them having to unload those properties to see that problem. On the other side of that, I just don't see it happening because even if they did overpay for it, they're still making rent on it and people are paying that rent. So it's kind of like yeah, sure, we overpaid for it. Who cares? We're still getting people in there that are renting it out. The thing that I worry about most is that we have priced these homes so high that as younger people come up, they'll be 50 by the time they can afford a house, or 40, 47 before they can afford a home, because they keep going up and up and up. And we're still not building enough houses for the amount of people. Now, there's another theory. I know I'm rambling. There's another theory that's saying that the reason why they don't continue to build is because the population is decreasing and people aren't having children as like they used to. Well, why would you? I mean, like, if you knew, like, you see the world right now, I don't know. When my kids say, I don't know if I really want to start a family, I'm like, don't blame you. Right. Don't blame you. And they're like, I don't think we'll ever afford a house. I'm like, I understand where you're saying from, but you can. You just have to prepare yourself a little different than when we did when we were younger. So I can see it by both sides of the track. Well, so that was my ramble. Sorry, I went on a tangent.
Well, I think as a parent, like, and I'll work through that through the verse, because I think like something we as parents can do to set our kids up is one, there's education that we need to be giving them, so specifically about how the way they need to save their money has changed from what our parents told us to do. Relying on your company's 401k ain't it anymore, right? Like, that's just not going to happen. So you've got to be able to prepare yourself and put yourself in a position to have that wealth, or not even wealth, just honestly, the ability to go forward and function in the economy. I do kind of wonder, not to skip the question, but since I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know how global economics all play with each other in the sandbox, it's usually never the way any of us expect. Mm-hmm. I do feel like what we're seeing in the housing market and the increase is going to affect, like, my son's 8, right? How old will he have to be and what will his position have to be able to purchase a home? Just like, we look at where we rank in education now. You wouldn't have thought 20 years ago the things we were doing were going to change that. Now the US ranks terribly in most education statistics globally. It might be the same thing down the road for our kids, and where we're at is that the home ownership and stuff doesn't happen until it's 30. It just becomes kind of a normal deal, and people spend the majority of their wealth giving it to these huge corporations and struggle to ever really reach retirement age, relaxation age, all of that stuff. That could be the fallout from all of this that we wouldn't see right now at all.
Yeah. I don't know. These kids are more, they're not nearly as scared. and they really,
no kids are as scared as their parents.
Yeah. They really will buck the system. So, like, I could just see a group of them going, you know what, why don't we just make our own community and we'll start all over again and we'll do it our way. I could just see them doing that. They're very crafty and they're very smart. And I don't think we give them a lot of credit for what they do know, because I listen to my kids and I'm like, that was over my head. They are very smart, and they are not afraid to change. They're not afraid of bucking the system at any given time. They just don't care. So
this is I don't want to diverge on this, but this also is the product of youth. All of us, this is not a new generational thing. We can go back to the 60s and see young people wanting change. We can go back to the 70s. We can go to the 90s. Young people, everybody wants change until it's their thing being changed that they don't want. That's why as we get older, you follow and get set in your ways, and then you don't want anybody to come touch your stuff. You don't want anybody to mess with it, right? The biggest, I think all kids are going to be just fine, just like humanity's always fine. It works itself out. Mm-hmm. I do think in the United States, we put ourselves in a huge problem. There's not enough money to go around. The wage gap and earning gap is getting bigger and bigger. Colleges matters more or less. I can't tell if college matters anymore, right? Like, I don't have any idea. They're not being set up by a system that's going to help them very well going forward. And that is where
housing is reflective of that. And housing right now is reflective of that.
Very much so.
Very much so. Rents are too high. Home prices are too high.
Yep.
Interest rates are okay. But Chris asked a question, said, do you estimate the interest rates going down to the 5s in 2023? If they're going to, so I've had a couple people on, and they talked about it hitting the 5s. It did hit the 5s on a Thursday for like a few minutes. A good 2 hours. By Friday morning, they were back up in the 6s. If we see the 5s again, I don't think they're going to be the lower 5s. That would be my guess. But I think that's where we're going to be. I think that's going to be our happy place for quite some time. It's going to be in the 5s and 6s. That's That's my crystal ball prediction. What do you
I
say?
agree completely. Yeah, if you say 5%, like 5.0, no. If you think you'll see it like 5.99, probably, right? I think it'll get under 5 for a little bit. Again, always depends on what Fed Chair Powell's coming out and says too.
You're gonna have that one person that gets in there and they're gonna be like, I got 5.79 today.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I locked it in. You're like, yeah, high fiving them. DB Douglas has a question. It says, if I got a mortgage for $1,000 per month max, how much loan would I get putting down 20%? That depends on the taxes, your insurance, all sorts of stuff. Eddie even pulled this up for you. So like if you bought a house for 190,000 with a 20% down of 38,000, a 30-year fixed at 7.2, that would leave your payment at around $1,200. So but your loan amount would be $1,033.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to be looking at the 170s, 180s if you're looking for that. But that would be in Louisiana. Every state interest rates are different. Everybody's taxes, property taxes, man. Like for instance, property taxes. All right, how much is property taxes? Just a guesstimate for a house that's like 2,000 square feet in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. How much are property taxes here?
If you want to actually give me a second, I can actually give you like an estimated on one right now because I've kind of got it. I was looking at something right before this. Now, are you guys a homestead state? Do you get to do your homestead tax exemption, all that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So with homestead. So our property taxes here, our house is 2,200-ish square feet, I believe.
Okay.
And my property taxes are just over $2,000 a year.
So our property taxes here are higher than some places, not as high as some of the East Coast, right? Like Jersey, some of when you see like the really high states.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pulling this up right now because I wanted to see. So I've got I've got a newer construction. It's a 2,000 square foot house, like for sale for, around the mid to low threes. The unexempt taxes on that. I don't want to bog down the show. Keep going.
Okay,
anyways,
yeah.
They're not great here, but they are getting higher, and that's one of the bigger deals.
What's the amount?
Well, I can't really pull it up. I want to say like 7,700.
Yeah, 7,000, like around 10 grand.
Like right around 8,000. I think, yeah.
And then you have an insurance on top of it. Now here in Louisiana, our insurance is high. Not gonna lie, our insurance is high, but we have some flooding issues. Just so everybody knows, I know I've said this several times, flood insurance is not part of your homeowner's policy. If you happen to live in a low-lying area that has never flooded before, but back in the day they heard that there might flood, get yourself some flood insurance. It's very inexpensive. It's like $500. Get yourself some flood insurance for peace of mind. I'll tell you what, the people that were affected in 2016 that had flood insurance, they only had a lot of people only had the flood insurance that covered the house, but it didn't cover the contents inside. So yeah, they got their house fixed up, but they have no furniture, clothing, all that stuff had to be thrown away. Pots, pans, all the mold that had grown on there, gone, done. You can't bring it back. And so just know if you are in a low-lying area, flood insurance is something you need to have. It's very inexpensive and it's not covered under your traditional home policy. This was not an endorsement for any kind of company. I'm just telling you. Yeah. And another thing too, if you're thinking about moving to an area, find out how much the car insurance is. Louisiana car insurance is high as well. I saw a commercial. Debbie Brady said, I saw a commercial for title lock. Have you seen title theft before?
Title insurance is one of those amazing things that I've never really seen go wrong. It is there for every single transaction. And I've had a couple of minor issues as far as surveys and fences encroaching and things like that, but never had a real title claim where like Uncle Jim's niece came back and said, hey, this is my land, give it back type of thing. I've never had that happen. So
in the state of Louisiana, inheritance law works a little bit different. So when someone passes away in your family, if they do not have a will or they don't have a will that was filed correctly, everything goes down to the children, not the spouse. So all the kids get a property like that. And I had a property that my buyer was purchasing. And in order for that to close, they had to repair the title, and they had to have 36 members sign off on this house. It was only $35,000. I've never seen a title like this. I mean, they were just round robbing it in, just signing away. And they were all waiting for their check for this $35,000 house.
What an amazing feat to get those 36 people all together to do all that too. Like, that's pretty impressive.
And you saw every walk of life. You saw from the top of the hill all the way to the bottom. I mean, it was literally the whole way, the whole gambit all the way through.
Now, I have sold a property that had a family burial plot on it. And that was interesting because I learned very quickly that when there is a legit burial plot that's registered and everything on property, you can never, forever restrict rights to the family of that person coming on that property and paying their respects.
I like that.
If it is your home, they will always allow the family members to come on, because the buyers ended up buying the house, but we're not going to for a while until they understood that, because they're like, we don't want them coming on the land. And like, well, you can't not let them.
Yeah. And those are the best neighbors to have. They're super quiet.
They're super.
They are, man. I don't know. Like, as a kid, I always thought that was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then I'm like, now I'm older, I'm like, I would totally do that all the way around. Those are the best neighbors to have. They never complain. So, and another thing with title insurance too, it's just a peace of mind. You can have all sorts of things that happen. And when you get make sure that the title insurance, when you're getting your closing statement, settlement statement, you have title insurance for yourself, because you might see title insurance on that closing document, but that refers to the title insurance for the lender. Make sure you have your own title insurance, and it's a one-time fee. So just go ahead and get it. Peace of mind. It's one of those things you think that it won't pertain to you because you bought a brand new house. I had that happen too, where they bought a brand new house. We went to sell it. The people that were purchasing it got a survey, and the house next door was over the property line. Luckily, these people had title insurance. The builder cured the whole problem, but I mean, that was an issue. So yeah, title insurance, another thing. Flood insurance, title insurance. Who knew that this was going to go like that today? Diamond Rush Media says, update your wills. If you've moved to a different state, so they're valid. This is 100% true. 100% true, because the laws in each state are different. So you want to make sure that your will is updated. And you want to take a look at those every once in a while too, because your will could relate to children that are now older, that are, if you have your whole will and it's set up about the care of your children and they're now 18 and 20 and 24, you're not going to have them living with their aunt anymore, Yeah. So yeah, it's a good to update those as well. I need to do that. I need to update my will. Smart Think has a question. Do you still stand behind Boxable? Word is they're raising even more money and still basically haven't produced anything for pre-orders. Seems like a money pit failure with no product or scalability company. They're building more factories. They're obviously building houses. I don't know everybody that has one. I still other than Elon Musk, I don't know of anybody that has one in their backyard. I wish I knew more about them than I do. I do believe that the product is a real product. I went and saw it myself, saw the factory, saw how they were making it. It is water resistant. I think it will solve a lot of affordability problems in some areas, especially around that California, Arizona area. It wouldn't really necessarily work here in Louisiana, but I think it's a good product. I just don't know when I'm going to see them in people's backyards. Do you know anybody that has one? Matt?
I do not. I don't know. This is definitely way more your wheelhouse than mine. I don't know anybody who has one.
I like the guys. I think they have a good product. I think that this could be something that really does solve it. I just don't know if they can get enough of them out, because I think they have 175,000 people on their wait list, and they only can build at the last time I was there, they could only build I think it was 5 houses or 8 houses a day or something like that, or 5 houses a day, something like those. I'm quoting that wrong. We have to look that up. But it, for the amount of orders they had for as many houses they could produce, it wasn't lining up. But with the second factory, that could really help. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you because I just don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, look, somebody from Brazil. Hello.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hello. Nice to see you. All right. Yeah, if anybody has a question, just go ahead and put it up on the screen. I I want to go back to that Ohio thing because I was thinking about this. What does whenever a natural disaster has happened here in Louisiana, we've had our fair share. We've had floods, we've had all sorts of things that happened. And there was always a place for people to go to outside the whatever area. And I guess maybe because of the culture here is that we always help people here. You know, like if someone's in a bind, the neighbor comes and helps them out. I just hope for that area they do the same thing. The thing that is going to be different for them than it is here is that whenever, for instance, whenever Katrina happened, all those people had a lot of displaced homes. They couldn't rebuild. Insurance came in, and all the surrounding areas exploded because people needed to find a place to live. I don't know if that's even possible. Like, because I don't think I would live within 2,000 miles of that thing, let alone 500 miles or 30 miles outside that area. So I worry about that. I know that totally, like, it's on my brain. It's kind of one of those things that I'm going to lay there tonight and still think about those poor people and their pitch and their chickens and their pigeons and their livestock and all sorts of stuff. But my other worry is that I'm just seeing so many more people in looking for an affordable house in that first time home bracket that can't find anything affordable in their area. And if they're not going to build enough houses and then we're just going to keep shoving them in apartment buildings, that's not a good way for our kids to build wealth. And I think it's up to us to demand in our areas that they build smaller, more affordable houses and squash out the people that are like, I don't want those. It will bring down my property value. Those people need to just zip it. Zip it. Do you have those NIMBYs in your area that talk about affordable housing?
Yeah, I mean, like there's definitely conversations, I think, around it, like here locally, like there is everywhere. This is one of those places where I know you and I always I see things the same as you. I'm just so much more pessimistic about really being able to get that stuff done. And the reason why is just everybody loves this idea until it affects them, right? And all the people who needed the hand up or needed the smaller home to get started when they were kids, now that they have a home and it's in a bigger neighborhood or whatever. I will say one of the, they don't want that near them. I will say one of the neat things about Dallas-Fort Worth is because we do have so many different pockets of different types of home and different affordability, there are areas where I think this works, right? Because there's just not a lot there already. We do have a lot of room to spread out. I also understand that's not everybody's situation,
right. It's not New York City.
Yeah, exactly. And, New York City is a hard one too, because it's like, I feel like even I know some real estate agents there, and it seems like even the real estate market, that is just a renter society, right? Like,
well, yeah.
You know what I mean? That one specifically too, but I don't know. It's tough, and it's not changing here anytime soon that I've seen.
Yep. This is a good question. It says, have you seen Boxable? The in-person reviews I've heard about Boxable were very negative. Use the worst quality building materials. I have seen Boxable from the very beginning. I was one of the first people to ever report on Boxable. If you go back and look at some of my videos, one of my top performing videos is about Boxable. They are quality products. Like their walls are very well insulated and they're solid. They're mold resistant. They're reasonably affordable for the area that they are making them for. They wouldn't necessarily work here because you can get a house for $100,000. If you're going to put a $50,000 Boxable on it, we probably wouldn't appraise. That's why it doesn't work here, but it works great for like California and Arizona and those areas because they have a higher price point. Like I don't know what those people's in-person reviews were. I haven't had, like I said, I haven't seen anybody have one in their backyard. I was at the factory. I saw how they seal them up and put them together. You can't smell anything Like there's no like VOCs, you know, like how when you go into a new house, it stinks.
Mhm.
It doesn't smell. They really have like use the right products. So it isn't something that's going to make caustic and gag you to death. It definitely has the insulation. We were in the Arizona heat, and right there in the parking lot, you can go into one of the houses, and that thing was as cool as a cucumber, and it was blazing. It was like 105 outside.
Really?
Yeah, and yeah, they are a good product from what I can tell. I don't know what happens from the time it goes from the factory to it lands on that spot. There's my video. Yep. And one of the, just like anything, when you buy a manufactured home, a modular home, and let's even just say boxable, everything could be fine for the specific home itself. But once it's put together, the people that put it together usually cause all the problems. Like you could have a top-notch quality manufactured home, and the people that went and set it in place and connected it together and put the plumbing together and connected it to your sewer system and your wiring together, they mess it up. So then you think my house is a piece of junk, but it isn't. Your house is a piece of junk. It was those people that put it in. And that's what happens so many times. So I'm wondering if that could have been some of the issues that people are having. Like I said, I just don't know anybody that has one. I've asked. I'm like, has anybody gotten one yet? Can I meet one person that has one in their backyard? People, like I've seen people take pictures down the road that they have seen them. Like I got somebody that I said, "Oh, look, a boxable," because it was all wrapped up and it was going down the road. Like, who's getting it?
So
Who's getting it? Anyways, I know you can't talk about them, but I can.
No, I love hearing about it. I just haven't seen, like you, I haven't seen them either.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them in person. I just haven't seen them in anybody's house or location. So it's $150,000 for a new build with 1,100 square foot in Lubbock, Texas, a fair price. Is that a fair price in Lubbock? I've been to Lubbock once. I drove through it.
I mean, I haven't. But here's what I will say. I know from a location standpoint where it is, that seems reasonable for a new construction, right? It's out there in the west part, right? There's not a whole lot going on around it if you're not going to college out there or living out there. But for a new build, 1,100 square feet, yeah, I believe so. You know, I have a little bit of familiarity with the kind of the Midland Odessa market, which is a little bit further west, and they have tons of new construction out there, and that seems to be right around what people are paying in their market too.
Yeah, there's not much out there except for a lot of scorpions and what was it? Rattlesnakes.
There's a whole lot of oil money out that way. Though.
Yeah,
people dressed in overalls that you don't think got a dime. They've got about 40 million under their house in oil. It's crazy.
I was out there to go see a tiny home builder that didn't build tiny homes.
Is this the video? Is this the video where you found the dude who like wasn't doing it? Where was the video that you
out to Texas? Yes. I drove through Lubbock. He coaxed me out to Texas to go look at his off the grid tiny home community that he was starting. He had all these models that he wanted us to see. He had 3 prepped. This is how 3 prepped for me to come out there and take a look at them. And he was calling me every week. When are you coming out here? When are you coming out here? And this was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, all right, I'll jeopardize my health for the community. So I rented a car and drove out there. He had nothing but a pipe dream. It was all
that video was that video when you were doing that video. That was when you've been in my social media world, but that was when you and I were really getting to know each other. Cause that was like kind of one of my first experiences with your videos was like watching you go through all that. And now you're like, wait till you see what I have coming up. And you told me about that. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot.
I can't believe that happened. Cause like, and I'll tell you this as viewers, when you meet a home builder, it doesn't matter if they're in the tiny home business, the modular home business, the SIPs building, doesn't matter. Home builders are a little off. They're always a little kooky, so you kind of like deal with their idiosyncrasies. So there wasn't any really massive red flags, and he was slick talking. But when we got there, I instantaneously, once my eyes laid like right on his face, I was like, we're getting bamboozled. I knew the minute I saw him, we were getting bamboozled. And then that whole entire day, he had us outside, out in the heat in Texas, like for hours. I'm like, where are the tiny homes? Where are the tiny homes? Where are the tiny homes? Finally, like at 4:00, or I had enough. I'm like, nobody cares about any of this. Let's see the tiny homes. We drive down that little that driveway. It was like just a dirt road, with rocks kicking up and sand everywhere. It's so hot. And I'm like, he's like, there it is. And he's in the back seat of the car. This dude is. I'm like, that purple shed? No, it's not a shed. I'm like, it was a shed. It was smaller than this. It was smaller than this little office. Never in my life. Drove 24 hours to
send him, like, was he trying to raise funds and then just pocket the cash and run off?
Who knows? But he was trying to convince me to come back out there by myself to refilm all the rest of his houses. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. You're a liar. Totally went off the rails there for a minute, but I had a.
I know we normally, I love that one. I know, I just saw somebody comment over there. I don't know if they're half joking. They were talking about like I don't know if you guys have you ever heard of this company called Pad Split?
Of Pad Split?
Pad Split, like PAD Split.
No, I'm not.
They're in Tampa, a little bit in Atlanta. We don't have them here yet, but they actually are. This may or may not infuriate you. They actually take like 3 2s and 4 3s and turn them into 7-bedroom houses and rent them out by the room.
Oh,
so
well,
it can
in an area that needs it. Like, for instance, like if you're in California, right? If you're in California, you can't find things that are affordable. That and like they have similar things in like Amsterdam and stuff.
It's kind of like that, right? Like where they'll take you essentially, to kind of do this, you always need an investor who sees the opportunity. You need a general contractor who can add a bathroom or whatever, right? Stuff like that. And then you kind of, I don't know how you convert the house back in the long run, but we had somebody on our podcast a few weeks ago who does this in Tampa. And it's great for investors. It's great for shortage of housing. But yeah, this is like, they actually have wait lists of people who are like in certain markets are waiting to get on these because it's an affordable rent solution, probably mostly for younger single people. I don't think it's going to work if you have a family and a kid to live with other people. But
I could never live with other people. Oh, we got a super chat that came in. Boy, that is a loud super chat.
I love it.
Mystical Meat Popsicle with a $5 super chat says, what are your thoughts on log cabin homes? I like a log cabin home. There is some things that you need to be aware of if you're thinking about doing a log cabin home. And one of them happens to be the moisture content. They have a problem with the humidity when it comes to log cabin homes. So, I know that it seems like the great outdoors and like this is what our pioneer friends did. So it should be okay. They just have their own set of issues with having them. They're super, super cute. I love them. But definitely take a look at those. I can't rattle them all off to the top of my head, but I like a cabin home. I think they're adorable.
I think they're cool here. I think like with anything, just the real estate agent in me tells people, think about resale. Not everybody's going to want to live in a log cabin. So if this is not your forever home, or it doesn't make sense with wherever you're building it, meaning it's the only log cabin home there is, just keep in mind that if you need to sell it down the road someday, it might not appeal to everybody, which ultimately could potentially lower the amount of money you get for it and its desirability. That's just me warning the investment part of it. But
right, you would have to have it in the right area. You're right, because if we have a few of them around here and they don't appraise well. You're right about that.
Now we're just a little bit south of like Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is where my family and I go every summer just for like a week. And it's in the mountains. There's log cabins everywhere there. Airbnb, short-term rentals, they kill up there.
So that's Pad Split you were talking about. They have it in Houston, Tampa, Dallas, Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Richmond. That's why I didn't hear about it.
Yeah. So it's just something like I said, I don't know how I feel about it one way or the other. But it's certainly interesting. Look, Dockery, you're kind of right. Like the criteria that you would have to get the house at, where you would be able to put these houses, right? Like I can tell you right now, Plano, the town that I live in, they tabled it, but they were trying to put restrictions on short-term rentals here, mainly just by requiring homeowners to pay like $300 a year for an inspection. But
I got to tell you this. So since it's Super Bowl Sunday, so the Airbnb play, like the Airbnbs that are all around, like for Super Bowl right now, are like, they know statistically they get rented out like 82%. Right now, they're only renting about 52%. They're doing terrible. They're doing terrible. And it's
Short-term rentals are not great
because,
everywhere now.
well, it's because a lot of them were like, hey, we can make bank on this, and decided to up their rents. And they're not doing it. And one of them had it up to $1,200 for the weekend, then brought it back down to $500, and nobody's still renting it. So this will be interesting to see if some of these Airbnbs that were in this business, like trying to make a buck during the pandemic, are going to end up putting their houses up for sale or turning them into long-term rentals, which wouldn't be a bad thing if they did long-term rentals, because
my business partner owns two Airbnbs, and one of they're actually in the same neighborhood. One of them is performing quite well. The other one isn't. So he's actually going to convert the one into a longer term rental. It just makes more sense.
What do you mean convert? Like, how is it going?
I mean, you essentially, the really crappy part is you just went and furnished this whole stinking house for it to be an Airbnb. So he's really the real problem is now he's got to go store all this crap, because nobody really wants to rent a furnished house.
No, you're wrong. You are wrong, because there's so many executives that are like, I want a house. I don't like, even here in my little Hoboken, little small town outside of Baton Rouge, people will rent fully furnished houses. They're very excited so they don't want to furnish an apartment, because they're only going to live there for a year. Like, they're only doing it for a business for this period of time. So I would at least try. And then, if you are in this situation and you need to sell your Airbnb and you have all this stuff, contact other real estate offices that do staging, because they may buy your stuff. They might buy your stuff for a discounted rate, by the way. Don't think you're getting top dollar for your used furniture.
We tried to start a staging company one time because we thought it would be like a good business to go along with our real estate team. It's shockingly hard to work the logistics of a staging company. We ejected from that after like 60 days. The staging really does work if you're in a market that is struggling. If you're on the struggle bus, let your real estate agent stage your home. But if in like the market we're in, even to this day, you don't need to have expensive staging done to your house to have it sold quickly, especially if you're in that affordable housing range. I mean, I've seen people have toothpaste all over their mirrors and are like, we'll buy it. It's ours. We just need to clean it. So, all right, what are you doing for Super Bowl Sunday, my friend? I'm going to hang out a little bit here for the next hour and a half. I'm going to go pick up my son at 6:00, and we're going to eat steaks and green beans and watch the game. And I kind of have to root for the Chiefs, I guess, just because as a Cowboys fan, I can't have the Eagles walking around here with a Super Bowl victory.
So what are the colors of the two teams? This is how I decide who's
so red and green. So the Chiefs, let's just go with red, yellow, green for the Chiefs, or red, yellow, white for the Chiefs, and green and white for the Eagles.
I have to say the red one is prettier to me than the green one. So I will pick the red team. Go Sports.
Then they're going to win. Then we're good. The prettier team is going to win. Though I will root against the Chiefs, though, because like socially, like, you don't know about this, but if you want to get super annoyed by just humans in general, Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of the Chiefs. Just go look up his brother and watch that goofball on TikTok for 30 seconds, and then you'll want to delete all the apps off your phone.
Oh, well, I've limited myself. I actually have a timer on TikTok. I only allow myself 15 minutes on it.
Good.
It's garbage. What is considered affordable housing? Oh, wow. Okay, here's my answer to affordable. So everybody has a different perspective when it comes to affordable housing, and they're thinking that I'm talking about like Section 8 housing, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the average person with the average salary living in that area being able to find the average priced home in that area. Most of the time, like here recently, the average income in the area cannot buy the average home in that area. So it's completely out of whack right now. And it has been for the last 2.5 years. And it was ticking that way up before the pandemic. The pandemic made it like ripped the Band-Aid off, and now it's spurting out because just look at the age range of people being able to find their first home there. It's increased exponentially. And that's because home prices keep continuing to go up. So that's my definition of affordable. The average person being able to buy the average home in the area, and they can't.
Yep, I agree. And like I said, to put a number on it, I saw somebody throw out 30% of your income. These days, that's probably reasonable, right?
And it didn't used to be.
It didn't used to be.
30%
honestly, I would be
was insanity when I was growing up. 30% for a home of your income was insanity.
And I think for a lot of people, if they were being honest, especially maybe some people who don't have their finances completely in order, and maybe even just some renters, I would say there's a lot of people out there who are probably at a lot higher percentage of their income than that. Right. I'm sure there are people out there 45% of their income is going.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
That's where the last time I read the article, it was like the most Americans are paying about 42 to 45% of their income just for a place to sleep.
Yep.
It's gross. Totally disgusting. So anyways, they have one more question. They said, my 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house cost me $330,000 in 2021. I would not call that very affordable. No, it's not. But starter homes are even more expensive now in Nashville. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But like, I want to know what your interest rate was. We were just talking about this. I bet your interest rate is like what? It's under 3%.
Yeah, you're probably pretty excited.
Hold that sucker for life.
Yeah.
You're never going to get money that cheap ever again in your life.
And I would venture to say in most major markets, if you bought in 2021, you're still sitting on a lot of equity because the market was still moving up even if you bought the end of 2021, you still had 6 months of pretty insane equity run up.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. 2.8. There you go.
There you go.
You won. You did the right thing, my friend. You did the right thing.
Yep.
All right, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic Super Bowl. I hope everybody is safe. Do not drink and drive. Continue to watch the interest rates because they go up and down every single day. And if I quote an interest rate, that doesn't mean that it's the interest rate for your specific state. So always check with your mortgage lender in your local area. Matt Kelderman, if you want to get a hold of him, he has a YouTube channel and he's also on Facebook and all the other social media sites. Eddie's going to pull it up on the screen so you can find him. Look at that good looking mug. He just looks older now because he's a day older. He's a year older now.
This beard is just rolling. So like, I'm just letting this thing go.
Yep. You're going to be like one of the bearded men. He's
bearded men of real estate. We'll see if they'll let me in their crew.
He said he's never refinancing. Of course, you're never refinancing. You're never going to refinance, my friend.
No, you
ever.
Shouldn't. You should
never,
not.
Ever get a HELOC to don't refinance.
Yes.
So thank you, Matt. I appreciate you for spending the day with us. I know that you forgot it was your birthday. I didn't know until today, and Facebook reminded me, and I appreciate you coming out here. This is the second year that you have spent Super Bowl Sunday with me. Do you know that?
We're going to do it every year now. This is like,
it's tradition.
I kind of brag that I get to come on your show. So like, you have to keep having me on.
Really? Well, I do have the best audience in the planet, honestly.
You do.
And now we're on podcasts. So if you don't know this and you want to share this with people, we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can get your podcasts. You can go ahead and download it and listen to us ramble about real estate. This was all over the place. This real estate conversation was all over the place today.
I love it.
It was because my brain was like, I couldn't get out of my head about those people in Ohio. I shouldn't have read that before I went to bed last night. And then this morning I went down a rabbit hole, just kept reading and reading and reading and reading. Shouldn't have done that. I just think about their homes and what they're going to do and their poor kids and their families and their dogs and their livestock. And I don't know. Anyways, thank you, everybody. Happy Super Bowl. Be good. Stay out of trouble. Don't talk to strangers. Look both ways before crossing.
Happy birthday, Matt. Look at that.
Aw, wasn't that nice?
Eddie's so killing it in the production room. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, moderator, for
Happy birthday to you.